Today's lesson is developing characters across a series. Writers, today is such an important day. We are going to be writing a second book in your series. So, what you have been writing with your realistic fiction, I want you to take that character a step further. Think about what your main character really wants and what are the struggles for your character. Now think about the next book that you could write with the same character. How could it go? Pause the video and talk to somebody at home. You could say, I'm thinking that maybe, or perhaps. Today, I want to teach you that when writing a second book in a series, you have to think deeply about the main character, as each of the books in a series reveals a little more about that person. Authors show what a character is like by showing not only what the character does, but also how the character does things. I've been thinking a lot about our mentor text and how Cynthia Ryland not only shows us what Poppleton does, but also how he does it. So let me show you. Do you remember when Poppleton gets mad at Cherry Sue? He gets more and more annoyed with her. But he doesn't say anything until he's so mad that he soaks her with a hose. Cynthia Ryland taught us a little about how Poppleton does things here. We learned that it takes Poppleton a long time to get mad, but then he sort of explodes. He soaks Cherry Sue with the garden hose, and all she has done is to invite him to supper. But then he feels terrible right away. And he wants to make things better. He says Poppleton felt awful. Right after he soaks her, he feels awful. The author showed how Poppleton tries to make things better when he ends up soaking himself with the hose. Let's take a look at the second chapter and see if we can learn more about Poppleton. It's called The Library. Poppleton went to the library every Monday. Monday was always Poppleton's library day. If Cherry Sue invited him to tea on Monday, Poppleton would say, "Sure, sorry, library day." If there was a wonderful parade in town on Monday, Poppleton would say, "Too bad, library day." Poppleton took library day very seriously. So the author is showing us that he goes to the library every Monday, and it doesn't matter what comes up, he always is going to go on Monday. This shows me how important the library is to Poppleton because he won't do anything else on Mondays. So we're not learning about what he does, but we're also learning how he did it. He does everything so intensely. You can show the what and the how of your characters too. Now let's remember what we showed about AJ in this first story by paying attention to some of the things he did and said that showed his personality. Then we can think about how we can make a whole new story with AJ still being himself, only in a new place with a new problem. Let's look at this page of our story for now and notice what AJ does that shows his personality. On the way to the soccer field, AJ's dad twirled the soccer ball around on his finger and said, "I love soccer, don't you?" AJ shrugged and said, "I guess." Then AJ's dad said, "I found a soccer camp you could go to." He thumped AJ on the arm. AJ winced, but didn't say anything. He reached for the brochure he had in his pocket for art camp. Dad? He said. Then he put his hands back in his pockets. By then, they'd reached the soccer field, so AJ just kicked the ball to his dad. Writers, take a moment to think about and answer the question, what things did AJ do? What did he say? How does it show the kind of person he is? Pause the video and tell somebody at home. To think about how the next book in your series will go, it is important to recall how the first book goes because the next one will be partly the same. So, AJ is a soft hearted kid who doesn't want to play soccer. He wants to draw. He finally gets brave enough to tell his dad. But now we have to think what story could be another short story about AJ? Do you think we could tell about AJ going to art camp? Or maybe is the real story about how he has to learn to stand up for what he really feels, even when he is being pressured in certain ways? Maybe someone else could be pressuring him, not just his dad, but perhaps maybe his friends. Maybe the kids in the lunchroom at school are being mean to someone and they want AJ to join in, and he does for a while, but then something could change that. So, right now, think about your first book in your series and think about what the character is like. What trouble might the character get into this time? Before you go off and begin your second book today, take a moment to think about what that second story will tell. We talked about what kinds of trouble your character might get into. Right now, think about what you want to show about who your character is as a person. How will you show the traits of your characters? Remember, don't just tell what your character will do, but tell how your character will do it. So instead of starting with revising your stories, maybe we need to start writing well from the start. Here is an example of a student's work where the trouble starts. Are you ready to give this a try? Okay, off you go.